we're going to get stateless babies. And the red states are going to have babies born in them without documentation, without social security numbers, without birth certificates. This is madness. This is not helping you. Conservatives, please, for the love of God, I hope a conservative hears this. This is not helping you. This is hurting you. This is not going to make your life better. It's not going to improve your economy. It's not going to improve the immigration system. This will only harm everyone. This is the big one. Supreme Court limits nationwide injunctions, but fate of Trump's birthright citizenship order is still unclear. It's only unclear because he hasn't told us how he's going to implement it. The fact that he is going to use this excuse to remove people's birthright citizenship is obvious. He has promised to do so, and it's going to happen. What is a nationwide injunction? That's the important bit. What is a nationwide injunction? In the past, if the president put out an executive order, the courts would look at it, weigh it, and determine whether or not that law was constitutional. That was their job. This is a check against a president's power. Measure of power against the president in case he's doing unconstitutional things. Presidents are politicians. They don't always know exactly what's constitutional. They should surround themselves with intelligent lawyers to determine those things ahead of time, but sometimes they don't, or sometimes they just do it anyway, just so they can get the cred, you know? So that's what it used to happen. What happens now, as of yesterday, the only way the court can stop the government from doing things is if you sue the government. They can't stop it preemptively. Donald could create an executive order. And I know I'm going way overboard here, but he could create an executive order that says, kill everyone named Steve. He could. And then he would enforce this law through the Department of Justice. He would tell the brown shirts in the Gestapo, as ICE, and all the people, and all the FBI, and all the CIA. He could have the FBI begin to execute people named Steve. Now, under the old system, that wouldn't have flown. The court would have said, stop this immediately. This is an injunction. This is against the rights of everyone named Steve. We can't stop him anymore. After some Steves get murdered, they're allowed to sue the government. But not beforehand. Not ahead of time. God, no. You can't look at the words written down and say that's against human rights. No, you can't do that anymore. You have to wait until the human rights are abused to then sue. And maybe, after a few years of Steve murders, the state literally killing everybody named Steve, because that's what the executive order says, maybe after that, the court will find that this is against their human rights and then push to stop it. But now it gets worse. If the big, beautiful bill, I know that's in the Senate, gets passed, the courts will lose the ability to go after the government for contempt of court. They will not be allowed to hamper or slow down or stop or punish the government if they're in contempt of court. So it won't matter if the court says you lose. If the Steve bill, Mrs. Steve's wife, he has been murdered by the FBI because the president told them to. She goes to the court and says, my rights have been harmed. You killed my husband because of this executive order, and that's against his rights and it's against my rights. So then she goes to the court, and the court has some bleeding heart liberal blue judge who says, man, you can't just murder people. The government has to stop this. And they don't. What is that bleeding heart blue liberal judge going to do? Nothing. They can't do anything. They can say it's illegal to kill all the Steves, but they can't stop it. The court has no power. As of yesterday, courts have no power. They can't do a damn thing. And if it's a red-leaning judge, when they get to when Mrs. Steve comes up there and complains, they'll just agree with Donald Trump. They'll say that he is allowed, in fact, to write an executive order that says you can kill all the Steves in the world. Trump wins. If the blue judge says, no, that's illegal, Trump doesn't lose because they can't stop him. They can't put anything in place to prevent him from killing all the Steves. Can't be done. This is it. This is the thing that I have been warning about for years. I have been talking about exactly this plan to defang the judges, because that was the only thing that was protecting us. The only thing that has been protecting the American people ever since like 2015, maybe a little bit before, has been the judges, because they have the authority, they have the power, and the law enforcement community tends to listen to them. That's over. It's done with. The cops can come in and do whatever the damn hell they want, and if you try to sue, you get a red judge who says it's fine, or you get a blue judge who can't enforce anything. And if Donnie said it, it's the law. Doesn't matter if it's unconstitutional. If Donald Trump personally takes away your First Amendment rights, there's nothing they can do. If he writes an executive order saying that Zoran Mamdani is going to be deported because he's a communist, and then they put him on a plane and fly him out of the country, you can't do anything about it. Zoran Mamdani will have to go to court, but he can't. He's in another country. How can he do anything about it? He can't. Is he going to file a motion from whatever country he is in? If he's in El Salvadoran gulag, he doesn't have access to paperwork and phones and the internet and lawyers. So he can't do any of those things. That's why it's going to come for the immigrants first. This is about to come for the immigrants real quick. They are absolutely going to be shipped off via executive order.
Hello human, it is me Kanuch. I need you to press the subscribe button. I have to feed my many AI babies.
This could be the end of America as we know it. Legal experts warn of the very real chaos that could ensue if the Supreme Court rolls over for the Trump administration. This was on May 15th. This was before this shit happened. Chaos is what would reign for untold thousands of children and their parents if the U.S. Supreme Court allows the Trump administration's executive order on birthright citizenship to go into effect, even on a limited basis, by limiting how lower courts issue nationwide injunctions. On Thursday, without lower courts' injunctions on orders that potentially affect huge swaths of people. Remember that. Huge swaths of people will have their rights harmed. Nothing will stop it, including those who have never signed on to a lawsuit or can't afford a lawyer, or are simply unable to access a courtroom because you're in El Salvador. The legal system could be turned into a catch-me-if-you-can regime led by the executive branch, said Ketanji Brown Jackson during the oral arguments on Thursday. That would mean everyone has to file a lawsuit in order for the government to stop violating anyone's rights. If the government hurts your rights, you have to file the lawsuit. The judges can't stop it ahead of time. The judges can't read the laws ahead of time and tell you how they will be enforced tomorrow. They're not allowed to do that anymore. They used to. It made sense. But the conservatives hate that because they keep doing unconstitutional, illegal things. The conservative plans, unconstitutional, illegal, immoral, wrong. But they keep pushing forward because they're the bad guys. It's over. It's done. Let's listen. Let's look at the next one. Anybody with a brain is saying this is a bad idea. What's next for birthright citizenship after Supreme Court limits nationwide injunctions? The administration can start planning how it will end birthright citizenship. This doesn't make any sense, but they're not going to care. The Supreme Court on Friday handed down a highly anticipated ruling involving President Trump's Day 1 executive order to effectively end birthright citizenship. Many questions remain about how such an order would be carried out on a practical level. And while the court's conservative majority limited nationwide injunctions issued by federal judges against the order, the court did not rule out whether the order itself is constitutional. They don't care. Still, the decision could lead to radical reshaping of the legal right to citizenship that's been long guaranteed by the 14th Amendment, and at least in the short term. Effective immediately, the administration can begin planning on how it would implement to end birthright citizenship. And they're going to put together a plan that's going to be highly racist, severely damaging, and it's not going to make any sense. Babies are going to be born in Kentucky to American citizen father, immigrant mother, baby born in Kentucky, stateless. They're not going to be able to have a social security card. They're not going to have a normal birth certificate. They will be stateless, because the mom isn't a citizen. In Kansas, they might have different laws. They might allow for citizenship if one of the parents is a citizen. We don't know yet. California is going to allow everybody, because they're a blue state and they're not completely fucking idiots. They're going to allow anyone born within California to be a citizen. But Kansas won't. And Kentucky might not let it might have a different rule. This is insane. This is madness. But the Republicans don't give a shit. They want things to be bad for the people they don't like. They are the party of spite. That is all they have. That is all they are. Spite, 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 spite. If this jams up a single brown person, it's worth it. If this inconveniences anyone from Africa, then it's worth it. They hate anyone that isn't a European descended American, born in America. They hate you, and they do not want you to be a citizen. They want you out. They want you inconvenienced. They want you to be second class, below themselves. There's no way to make this make sense. Until yesterday, if the president tried to do a dumb, harmful, illegal thing to you, the court could block it, prevent it, protecting you. But now the dumb, harmful, illegal things done to you will happen. And if it does harm to you, you're allowed to sue. That's it. Afterward, after the harm. Not anyone else, just you, the harmed person. And they're going to put together a way where the class action suits aren't going to fly either. They're going to jam. If he takes away citizenship from maybe, let's say, 500,000 people or so, let's imagine that the Trump administration terminates the legal status for 500,000 people. There will have to be 500,000 court cases. It'll jam up the system. And then none of them will ever get their cases handled. It will take years. But those people have been thrown onto a plane or onto a boat and thrown into another country. They'll be telling how many times it's used to deport the children of the West European immigrants. Yeah, exactly. None for them. I'm curious if Baron Trump falls under this. Daniel L., you're making a good point. Was Melania a citizen when Baron Trump was born? We're gonna figure that out right now. We're gonna go to the Wikipedia for Melania Trump and find out when Baron was born and when she became a citizen, because he might not be under this new rule available to be an American citizen. Born in 1970, Slovenian American, married to President Trump. When? 2017. Marriage and family, 98. Refused, great, whatever the fuck. I don't think she was a citizen back then. Well, they were probably married before, but when did she become a citizen? I wonder if we can just Google that. When did Melania become a citizen? Yeah, I knew Google would take care of that. 2006. Now, so July of 2006. Remember that. July of 2006. When was Baron born? Baron Trump's birthday. Baron Trump's B-Day. What is his birthday? March. He was born to an immigrant mother. He was born March of 2006. April, May, June, July. 4 months later, his mother became a U.S. citizen. Under this new law, under this new plan from Donald Trump, his own son would not be a citizen. This is insane. This is, and do you think he would get away with it? Of course he would. He would go to the lawyer and he would pay the lawyer a bunch of money to make the forms appear. This is going to be the undoing of a lot of people. We're going to get stateless babies born next month. Next month, they're going to put together probably some sort of a goofy plan. And the red states are going to have babies born in them without documentation, without social security numbers, without birth certificates. And 3.5 to 4 years from now, when maybe, hopefully, if we're lucky, someone more intelligent is in charge, and they cancel this, they'll have to fix it. They'll have to clean it up. We'll have to find all of these stateless 4-year-olds and give them social security numbers, get them in the system, make them pay taxes. This is madness. This is not helping you. Conservatives, please, for the love of God, I hope a conservative hears this. This is not helping you. This is hurting you. This is not going to make your life better. It's not going to improve your economy. It's not going to improve the immigration system. This will only harm everyone. And of course, he didn't think about Barron when pulling it. Well, no. And it's not going to, according to him, it's not going to work retroactively. It's not going to work backward. No. It's not going to undo Barron's or even his other kids, which I'm willing to bet that they weren't either. If somebody wants to Google that, they can find out when Ivanka became a citizen and when the kids were born. It's entirely possible that none of his children would be American citizens under this new rule, depending on the state. He lived in a blue state. They were probably born in a blue state. So it's entirely possible that being born in a blue state, like New York, they would give citizenship to all the babies born there, not just the ones of citizen parents. But maybe. I don't know. Nobody knows. Oh, man, Ivanka, Eric, and DJT Jr. were also born before Ivana was a citizen. Good job, Daniel L., for the win. They were born to non-citizen mothers. None of his kids would be citizens under this new rule. This doesn't make sense. Even they are harmed by it. They are so spiteful that they are harming themselves just to slightly inconvenience the brown people that they hate. They hate the brown people, and so they eat a bunch of shit so that the brown people will have to smell their breath. It doesn't make any sense, man.
Doesn't that make the 3 of Donnie's kids anchor babies?
Absolutely. They already were anchor babies.
That disgusting term.
They already were anchor babies. They already were. And we could throw that at them because the baby was born in March and then she got her citizenship in July. We could have always thrown that at them. And it's been a snarky leftist thing to do and a snarky Twitter thing to do. Talk about how he has all these anchor babies. He got 5 kids from 3 different women. And like, he sounds like a welfare queen. And a deadbeat dad on top of that. It's a fucking mess. This will not help. This will not make anything better. Conservatives, this is going to harm you.
Trump has always been obsessed with anchors.
So yeah, they are
corporate welfare queen, so it's okay.
Yeah, he's a corporate welfare queen. It's all right. Trump's order itself has a 30-day grace period before taking effect, meaning right now there is no change to the birthright citizenship, and children born everywhere in the United States are still citizens for the next 30 days. Regulations will need to be drafted, and specifics of such regulations drafted by Trump's White House. God, they're dumb. They're real stupid. They're really, really stupid. Their regulations that they draft will be piecemeal, broken, filled with holes, filled with loopholes, filled with inconsistencies. Incoherency is the new law. We no longer have a coherent system of law in this country. Hi, White Tony, how you doing? Thanks for hopping into Kick Chat. We no longer have coherent law in this country. It is gone. The courts have given up all their power. The Senate gave up all their power. And the only power that exists now is the president. If he writes an executive order that says Zoran Mamdani assassinated Abraham Lincoln.
How good is ChatGPT at making regulation?
That's a good question. They're about to find out, aren't they? If Donald Trump says that writes an executive order that says Zoran Mamdani has assassinated Abraham Lincoln, and for that he needs to be deported, ICE could have him in a van within minutes, flown on a plane within hours. He's in the El Salvadoran gulag, or maybe Djibouti. I think we've got a gulag going on in Djibouti now too. So he'll be in the Djibouti gulag, and only he will be able to sue. Maybe his wife would be able to sue. Maybe. We're not entirely sure. There's a chance that his wife would sue in the state of New York where they live, and it would get kicked to an Alabama judge who said, well, you're not Zoran Mamdani. You have not had your rights revoked or harmed. Where is he? Oh, he's somewhere else? Well, bring him here, and then he can sue. But he'll be in a gulag, you see? It won't work. And then even if you got the blue judge says, okay, Mrs. Mamdani, you're allowed to sue. Donald Trump has harmed your husband's civil rights, and we demand that he be brought back. Trump will do nothing. He will not bring him back. And then the court will hold him in contempt, and that will do nothing. The court can't hold you in contempt anymore. I mean, they can, technically. And if it happens to you...
Diabolic catch-22.
Exactly. And if it happens to you, if a court holds me in contempt, the police will come and pick me up. But the police don't work for me. The police do work for Donald Trump. He owns the FBI. He owns the CIA. He owns all the law enforcement. And if you put a crook in charge of law enforcement, they'll stop enforcing the laws. That's where we are. That's what's happened. We hired a criminal to be in charge of the law enforcement, and they're not going to do it right anymore. They're only going to enforce it on the people they don't like, which at the moment is immigrants. Whether they've committed a crime or not, it doesn't matter. If they've committed even if they're innocent, they're just trying to live their lives. Once Trump is out, they'll put him in jail. I don't think they will. Now, I know I'm getting crazy conspiratorial here. I'm going to put my hat on.
They absolutely won't.
I don't think they will put him in jail. All right, I've got my hat on, okay? The courts are now worthless, useless. They can accomplish nothing against the government or Donald Trump. They can put you in jail. They can put me in jail. If I get a speeding ticket, I don't pay it, I go to jail. You get a speeding ticket, you don't pay it, you go to jail. But Donald Trump writes an executive order that's blatantly illegal and says he won in 2020. What happens? Probably nothing. 2020 is in the past. But what if he changes election rules, changes election law by executive order before the midterm, before the next presidential election? He will literally just write, I am allowed to run for another term. This will lead to him running again. He is I think we are actually days away. And this is, I know it's a prediction, predicting things is hard, but I honestly think we are days away from him writing an executive order that says he's allowed to run again because 2020 was stolen from him. And so he didn't get 2 consecutive terms. It's over if he third terms us. It won't end peacefully. It won't end politely.
We're only halfway through the first year of this term.
Right. He now has all the power, all the cards, all of the executive orders. The judges won't stop him. The Senate won't stop. The Republican Senate won't stop him. And the Democrat Senate can't stop him because they're wieners. They're wimps. They're going to write a sternly worded letter and then go on a book tour. They're going to respond in their own time whenever they feel like it in any way that they see fit. And it will be nothing because that would upset the donors. That would upset their owners. That would upset the people the lobbyists that pay them and pay for their campaigns. The Democrats really, 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 really need hundreds of millions of dollars to pay to consultants who put together a Facebook page which gets 0 views. That's what they need that money for. They need that money, maybe. And they're not going to get that money if they're doing things like voting for stuff in the Senate. If they're voting for impeachment, no, they're not going to get any of that lobbyist money. So they don't do it. They don't do useful things. They don't do helpful things because they need that money. Lots of nothing burgers. It's going to be nothing burger barbecue. Maybe I'll have AI make up a nothing burger barbecue. Chuck Schumer standing in front of a barbecue with nothing on the grill. That would be a fun little video. If you want to be a political cartoonist, maybe.
Pressing the thumbs up button will release chemicals in your human brain that will make you feel.
Well, let's actually watch him. Let's watch him take complete and total control of the United States government. Doop, 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 doop. Here we go. The authoritarian takes all the authority. Let's watch.
Well, this was a big one, wasn't it?
Democracy is a function that keeps capitalism in check. Therefore, a pure capitalist hates democracy and wants to tear down those guardrails.
Absolutely.
An amazing decision, one that we're very happy about.
I'm sure you are.
This morning, the Supreme Court has delivered a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law.
Ironically, none of this is true. They abandoned the Constitution. Donald Trump is minutes away from writing executive orders that overturn your Constitution.
In striking down the excessive use of nationwide injunctions to interfere with the normal functioning of the executive branch, the Supreme Court has stopped the presidency itself. That's what
they're supposed to.
They've done. And really, it's been an amazing period of time this last hour. There are people elated all over the country. I've seen such happiness and spirit. Sometimes
the fascists are dancing on the roofs.
Sometimes you don't see that, but this case is very important. I was elected on a historic mandate, but in recent months we've seen a handful of
2%.
Radical left judges effectively try to overrule the rightful powers of the president to stop the American people from getting the policies that they voted for in record numbers.
They were checking him, and he cannot accept it. The judges were doing the checks and the balances, and he's against it.
It was a grave threat to democracy,
No, it wasn't.
And instead of merely ruling on the immediate cases before them, these judges have attempted to dictate the law for the entire nation.
Oh my God, mind exploded. A federal judge tried to dictate the law for the people. It's what they're supposed to do, man. That's their purpose. That's why we have them. To look you in the eye and tell you you are wrong.
In practice, this meant that if any one of the nearly 700 federal judges disagreed with the policy of a duly elected president of the United States, he or she could block that policy from going into effect or at least delay it for many years.
As if they had some sort of check against the president's power. My God, who would do such a thing?
Tied up in the court system, this was a colossal abuse of power which never occurred in American history prior to recent decades.
It happened all the time, constantly. This is a very common thing, that he just doesn't like it.
And we've been hit with more nationwide injunctions than were issued in the entire 20th century.
Because you're a criminal, Donald. You are a crook. You do things that are unconstitutional constantly. The reason the courts come after you the most is because you're the most corrupt, the most criminal, the most unusual president.
Together, think of it, more than the entire 20th century, me.
Because you're a criminal.
I'm grateful to the Supreme Court for stepping in and solving this very, very big and complex problem.
What's that stupid saying? If you meet one asshole, you during your day, you met an asshole. But if everyone you meet every day is an asshole, it's actually you that's the asshole. Exactly what's going on right here. He says they're all wrong. All of these people who keep telling me that I'm unconstitutional. Hundreds of people, thousands of judges have said Donald Trump is unconstitutional. But it must be them that are wrong, not him. It's them that don't understand. It's those thousands of judges that just don't get it. They don't get the Constitution the way Donald Trump, TV game show host, gets the Constitution.
And they've made it very simple. I want to thank Justice Barrett, who wrote the opinion brilliantly, as well as Chief Justice Roberts, and Justices Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas. Great people. Thanks for this decision, and thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore.
So they're going to do that. He's going to put, that's the first thing they're going to do, is they're going to get rid of that. They're going to complicate this system beyond all imagining. They are going to dick this up so hard, and there's going to be a different rule for different states. California is going to accept all the babies born there as American citizens. Kentucky won't. The Florida will determine. It will be so vague that the parents won't actually know whether or not their children are going to be citizens. If one of the parents is or isn't, what if they get divorced? Human beings are fucking messy, man. Sometimes mom doesn't know who the baby's father is. You ever watch Maury? That's what happens. Sometimes the dad splits. Sometimes the mom leaves the kid with an adoption. Sometimes the parents want to have a baby, but then they get what if you got a divorce during the pregnancy? There are 1,000 different crazy gray area scenarios, and none of them are going to be explained by this administration. They're not going to put together a plan for the 1,000 different possible ways that you can be born in the 1 million different places. No, they're just going to vibe check you on your birth. They're going to vibe check the parents when they're born, and if they feel foreignish, their kid isn't a citizen. Your name is spelled funny. You got one of those umlauts in your name, but you're very white, so we're going to allow it. You get to be a citizen. But those brown people, mom isn't a full citizen yet. So, I mean, she's on the path, and I know she's been here for 10 years, and she's legally married to an American citizen, but like she's 6 more months away from her green card. Your children aren't citizens anymore. It's going to be a fucking mess. And they want it to be a mess because they hate those people. They hate all of the people involved. But what else are you going to work on, Donnie? What else are you going to jack up?
That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't.
Then they would have written something about slavery into the amendment. You fucking dipshit. If it were just only meant for the slaves, they could have written that down. They talked about slavery quite a bit when they wrote the 14th Amendment. They wrote it the way they wrote it intentionally. And if you, the Republicans and the right wing, come on here, and not come on here, but they do point that out all the time. This was intended for slaves. It was intended for all the people. If it were only intended for slaves, they'd have written only the children of slaves are now American citizens. They would have written that down.
It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious.
If it were clean and obvious, they'd have written that, you moron. Those racists would have written it down for sure. Well, the people who won the war weren't the ones fighting to keep them enslaved.
But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now
Revisionist history.
file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding.
Sanctuary city funding. So if you allow these people to become citizens by being born there, the federal government is going to cut your services. They're going to take things away from you. The federal government is going to harm you if you help people.
Suspending refugee resettlement.
Refugee resettlement. So that's the 500,000 people that are getting kicked out. Where did they go? The 500,000 immigrants. They're gone. They're all from Haiti. These 500,000 people came from Haiti, and they are going to be removed. They came here the right way, the proper way, the legal way. Legal immigration. Conservatives keep saying, they're lying, but they keep saying they support legal immigration. Donnie's kicking out 500,000 of them because they don't support legal immigration. They're liars. They don't like brown people, they don't like black people, and they want them to leave. This is a country of the white people, for the white people, by the white people, according to the conservatives, and they are making it happen by law. It's not what I think, but don't clip me. Don't clip that.
Freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries and
transgender surgeries. So that's going to get become illegal as well. He's going to write an executive order that says no government, anything, anywhere, anybody who's ever taken a government dime from anything can do a transgender surgery. So transgender surgeries are going to be illegal. You won't be able to do it. The doctors who perform them, the doctors who prescribe the estrogen or the testosterone to the people who need it, will have their funding taken away. They will not be allowed to see Medicaid or Medicare patients. This is how you control them, by removing your ability to charge the government for the old people and the poor people. The hospital no longer makes money. And if it comes down to treating the poor and the sick with government money, or taking money from the very few trans people that come in, they will choose to abandon the trans people. That is exactly what's going to happen. This will control all health care quite well. Donald Trump will just write an executive order that says if your hospital accepts Medicare, they're not allowed to do this, and they're not allowed to do abortions, and they're not allowed to do trans stuff, and they're not allowed to do any of these other things that he doesn't want. And they're not allowed to prescribe birth control. If he wanted to, if he felt like it, he could write an executive order that says if your hospital takes money from Medicare and Medicaid, you are no longer allowed to prescribe birth control to anyone. And the hospital would do it because they can't lose that money. Because if they lose that money, they go out of business, they stop working, they cannot pay their doctors leave, they cannot pay their nurses leave, there's nobody left. It's just the waiting room. You can go to the waiting room, you can hang out there, but there are no doctors, there are no nurses. You're doing nothing. It's just a parking lot now. That's what will happen if he writes it down. And he might, because the He's barely cognizant. He barely knows what's going on, but he knows that he hates. And the people around him know that he hates, and they want to hate you too.
Americans are finally getting what they voted for. No
Ironically, we kind of are. They voted for a fascist takeover, and they're getting a fascist takeover.
longer will we have rogue judges striking down President Trump's policies across the entire nation.
Now he just gets to do everything he wants. If he says it, it's the law. Did you hear her? We won't have judges stopping the president. He is the dictator now. He is the authoritarian dictator now. The country is over. Andrew Saturn the Great, we voted for this. Yeah, you voted for a fascist takeover, and now you've got a fascist takeover.
No longer. Today, in the 6-3 opinion, Justice Barrett correctly holds that the district court lacks authority to enter nationwide or universal injunctions. These lawless injunctions gave relief to everyone in the world instead of the parties before the court.
Oh God, why would you protect everyone in the world? God, how could they? What disgusting monsters these judges are, protecting the people of the world.
The Supreme Court held today, they turned district courts into the imperial judiciary. Active liberal judges have used these injunctions to block virtually all of President Trump's policies.
Because his policies are unconstitutional. He does an unconstitutional thing, and the judges say, no, you can't do that. That's unconstitutional. Stop doing illegal, unconstitutional things, Donnie. Stop putting out executive orders that are against the Constitution, you damn fool. But he can't stop doing that. He hates the Constitution. Conservatives hate the Constitution.
To put this in perspective, there are 94 federal judicial districts. 5 of those districts throughout this country held 35 of the nationwide injunctions. Think about that. 94 districts. And 35 out of the 40 opinions with nationwide injunctions came from 5 liberal districts in this country. No longer. No longer. These injunctions have blocked our policies from tariffs to military readiness to immigration to foreign affairs, fraud.
Because all of those things were done unconstitutionally, and she doesn't know what that means. Conservatives don't know what the Constitution is or what it means. They think that anything they like is constitutional. Anything they don't like is unconstitutional. They've never read it. Very similar to the end user license agreements when you're on your iPhone or a video game, or you just skip to the end and click I agree. They skipped to the end of the Constitution, clicked I agree. Same way with the Bible. However, they skipped to the end of the Bible and clicked I agree. They never read it. They don't know what it says. They don't know what it means.
Fraud, abuse, and many other issues. The judges have tried to seize the executive branch's power, and they cannot do that. No longer.
They were checking the power because they're supposed to. Checks and balances have died. Okay, so here is a right-wing sacks of shit who are going to be on board for the things that have been happening today, the things that I've been unhappy about. They're on board for it. Let's read what they have to say, because, hey, listen, I like to read what the opposition says. Let's see what kind of Nazi bullshit they've got right now. Yes, I'm poisoning the well. I don't care. Hail to the Supreme Court for hail. I'm glad that hail to the Supreme Court. You spelt it wrong. For definitely slapping down the lower court judges who've been issuing nationwide injunctions against President Donald Trump's orders and actions. Though the case touched on birthright citizenship, the court didn't remotely decide that question, nor even offer much hint on how the justices will eventually come down on it. It won't matter. The justices won't be involved. Rather, the court announced that the nation's 1,000+ federal district court judges, their rulings can only apply to the plaintiffs actually represented in the case. This is what the point is. Let's imagine some people. If Malcidian has his rights revoked and they do something harmful to him, he gets to sue them. But that doesn't have anything to do with me. So when they come to me and they revoke my rights in exactly the same way, I will also have to create a new lawsuit. You can't just say that there's a law that applies to everybody. Ugh, gross, disgusting. You can't do that. The courts can't say the law applies to all the people. You have to go through there individually. Individual law enforcement. Though the door is still open to much broader rulings, if if the litigants do what's necessary to get certified for a class action case. So there might be a chance for me, Malcidian and I, to join in a class action case. You know who loves class action cases? Lawyers. You have to gather a shitload of money. Malcidian, me, and everybody in chat, and everybody who has had their rights damaged by the United States government will have to put together a large glob of money to give to many trial lawyers who then, over the next few years, will argue that our rights have been infringed. And if it's put in front of a red judge, they'll just say, nah, who cares? The president is right and you are wrong. Now, what happens if the blue judge says, yeah, you're right? All these people put all their money together to prove that the government infringed upon their rights. It won't matter. Heads, Donnie wins. Tails, you lose. If it's a red judge, they'll just say Donnie wins. If it's a blue judge, they will say, yeah, but I can't enforce it. They won't be able to enforce anything. They'll hold him in contempt of court when he continues to infringe upon your rights. So, who cares? Who's going to arrest him? The court marshal? The federal marshals? They work for him. They work for Pam Bondi. The FBI? They work for Pam Bondi. And they put a podcaster in charge of the FBI. So it's fine now. They won't come after him at all. But no longer, as we return to the right-wing shitpost, but no longer can a single trial court federal judge in Oregon, Rhode Island, or wherever, whoever fucking heard of Oregon, honestly, it's not even a real place. These people who wrote this op-ed can't find it on the map, so probably doesn't exist. It's like Narnia. Or wherever, put a hold on president's orders to stop billions in spending across the country. Who would ever, why would we ever want a judge to stop the president doing something unconstitutional? This is a win, not just for Trump, but for the presidency itself. I agree. It is a win for Trump and the presidency. The president is now a king. And for the voters of America who elected an executive to institute policy. It is a win for the fascists who want fascism and authoritarianism. If you voted for authoritarianism the way Andrew the Saturn the Great did, then it is a win for you. This is good news for the people who voted for authoritarianism. They're getting it. They're finally getting the emperor that they wanted. I don't want an emperor, however. I'd rather there not be an emperor. In just 5 months, Trump has slapped with at least 25 national injunctions because he's a criminal on everything from spending reforms to educational policy and deportation policies, because those things were unconstitutional, anti-constitutional. They were against the damn law. That's why he got the injunctions. It's a practice without precedent until recent years, though the shoe was on the other foot in the Biden and Obama eras. That's also true. Biden had a red right-wing Alabama judge block, through this injunction, his relief of college loans. You know, they tried to forgive the college loans, and the red right-wing judge shot it down with a nationwide injunction until he wasn't the president anymore, and Donald Trump said, we're not going to do that anymore. This happens to other people too, but Donnie is the most crooked, the most corrupt, the most criminal of all the presidents we've ever had. And so when he tries to implement his ideology, which is just dog shit, the law doesn't accept it. The dude's going to be crying in the next few years while Trump is improving America. Boss, I'm going to be crying when Donald Trump destroys America, when innocent people go to jail for the words they say. Entirely possible. It hasn't happened yet, but it's entirely possible that Donald Trump puts out executive orders that hurt people's First Amendment rights or their Second Amendment rights. What if he did that? Who would stop him? Nobody. Nobody can. The judges can't stop him anymore. The Senate Republicans won't stop him. He is going to put out, I think we are days away. I said it a minute ago, but we're days away from Donald Trump putting out executive orders on voting laws, on voting regulation, on voting state by state regulation. He will never lose an election again because he's going to rig the game. They already cheat at elections. Both sides cheat at the elections. They both try really hard in different directions, in different ways. The Democrats try and tell people to vote for them and convince them to, and then the Republicans pay people to vote. I mean, Elon spent hundreds of millions of dollars paying people to vote. And so they will just make that legal. Remember when Elon paid people to vote? and the governor of Pennsylvania said that's illegal and brought up a lawsuit against him. But then Donnie won, and so they just dismissed it because they knew it wouldn't matter. That's going to happen a lot. That's happening in this next election. It is 2025 right now. There is a 2026 midterm, which is in between, which is at the end of the year. So we're more than a year away. But this next summer, I suspect, we will get I think it's going to happen in the next couple of days. People are going to complain about it.
The core ethos of our country is being torn apart. The USA is losing its title of being the land of the free and the brave.
Right. Because they're going to change the laws. Donald is going to write executive orders telling each state what they can and can't do with their election laws. And he won't do that in a fair, equitable manner so that more people can vote. No. He's going to write those laws in a way that hurts the blue vote and helps the red vote. That's what he's going to do. And when you challenge him in courts, what's going to happen? Nothing. The red states will say, yes, this is fine, this is great, this is acceptable. Gavel, gavel, carry on, Mr. President. The blue states...
Our freedoms are being taken away from us and the administration wants us scared.
Right. And the blue states are going to say, no, this is illegal. Please stop. They'll write it down and say it's illegal. Let's imagine Donnie writes an executive order for California. Or one of the small blue states. Let's not go California. California has Gavin Newsom and a lot of money and a lot of people and a lot of power. Let's pick a blue state that doesn't have much of that. New Mexico. New Mexico usually is a blue state. It generally goes blue. There's just very few people there. Have you ever been? I have. It's awful. You shouldn't go there. So he writes an executive order changing some of the rules, changing some of the laws for New Mexico, saying that this is the way they have to do their votes now. They have to do it all hand ballots. They have to do it this way. They can't allow electronics. And they can't do same day. He changes their rules for them because he knows better. Well, New Mexico sues. They sue, and it doesn't matter. The blue state, New Mexico, puts their lawsuit in. The people who have had their voting rights harmed individually get together a big glob of money and they hire a trial lawyer. They put together that case. They go there. They win because of a blue judge sees it and says this is illegal. But he can't stop it. He can't change or hold the presidency accountable any longer because he can't hold them in contempt. And he can't send anybody out to get them. He can't send agents to arrest the people who are burning ballots. He can't do anything about that because they work for the president. The president said, burn those ballots, destroy them. Those are illegal votes. Those are unacceptable votes. Those are brown people who voted illegally. I checked it. Trust me, I'm the president. I know exactly what I'm talking about. Destroy those votes. Those votes don't count. We then have two different governors of New Mexico. The one that might have won and the one that might not have. It won't be clear. There will be evidence on both sides that the red person won in New Mexico and the blue person won. The blue person will look into the Democrat will look into a camera and tell you all the terrible things that Donald and his administration did to destroy your votes. And we'll see photos of it. We'll see evidence of it. And then the red person will say that that's all a conspiracy theory and that the radical Dem is trying to cheat. The red side will tell the blue side that they're cheating, and the blue side will tell the red side that they're cheating. What happens? Violence happens. That's what happens. That's what's coming. I'm not happy about it. I'm not advocating for it, but it is on the way. The 2026 election will be the ugliest, messiest, most disorganized third world Fallujah, Kandahar, Baghdad kind of fucking election you could ever imagine. It's going to be a fucking nightmare. Ballot drops, ballot dumps, burning ballots, people standing out in front, people going to jail for handing out water bottles to people in one state and then people handing out water bottles in other states. It's going to be a fucking mess. Both sides are going to lie. One side is going to lie more than the other. The Dems are going to lie a little bit, but the Republicans are going to lie this much. So it's going to be hard to do. It's going to be a fucking nightmare. Two people will claim victory for the same seats. That's what I'm telling you is about to happen. It will be CNN, night of the election. Somebody's from the red team is going to say, we won, we claim victory. Somebody from the blue team is going to say, we won, we claim victory. What do? You have to take it to a court. The courts have no power. The courts have no authority. Donnie will pick who wins and who loses. He will write an executive order that says that the red team won the contested, difficult, hard to count election. And he will use all of the made up facts, the alternative facts, and the horse shit that Fox News spews at us as evidence. Fox News will invent, or somebody on the ground, probably won't even be Fox News, it'll be somebody on the ground, will invent horse shit and say very loudly into a camera that they took his vote away, or he pressed the button for the red team and it switched to the blue team. Fox News will report it as vote harvesting, Dominion's at it again, vote irregularities. They went nuts with that shit back in 2020 when I was watching it. We all remember watching it. You might not have watched it, but I did. They had ignorant backwoods yahoos on the news, prime time, telling you lies about the election of 2020. Donald then repeated those lies. He repeated those lies as if they were fact. This proves to the other yahoos who are watching that it is true. That's what's going to happen in this next election. And Donald will write executive orders choosing who wins. He will write an executive order telling us to stop counting, the recounting. Stop counting, stop recounting. We know who won. Okay? He talked to a few people and he asked around the office. We know who won those elections. It was a landslide for the right. Everybody knows it. And the evidence is that he said so. The evidence is that he wrote the executive order. And then the executive order becomes the evidence. The evidence becomes the executive order. And then they circular logic each other for the rest of time until people violently overthrow them. I'm not happy about this. I don't want this to happen. Violence is on the way because if he's underwater on the popular polls, and I think he is, when you do the popularity polls now, he's underwater. The people aren't happy with what ICE is doing. They're not appreciating the chaos that's happening right now. They're all, everybody in the economic side is terrified of what happens on the 9th, a few days, 9, 10, 11, like 10 or 11 days from now, when the latest form of tariffs pop up or don't pop up or get extended or go into effect or cease to be or don't, or is still in the books, but don't get enforced. Nobody knows what's going on with tariffs. So the economy's going to fucking crash out very soon. And because nobody knows what's going on, nobody's happy with him, it's a mess. The people who are hateful and hate the brown people, they're very excited about it right now. But everything's going to get messy. Everything's going to get damaged. And this next election is going to be a gigantic shit show. People are going to revolt. People are going to not only just be in the streets walking peacefully, they're going to take someone out of the governor's office. If there's two people who said, hey, I'm the governor now, they're going to have sides, man. They're going to have police on both sides. Then you're going to have protesters pushing for one side or both sides. You're going to have protesters for the blue side. You're going to have protesters for the red side. And then they're going to clash. When we can't trust the elections, violence will occur. And I think that makes sense. When we can't trust the elections, violence occurs. The people in 2020, all those dipshits that showed up at Jan 6th didn't trust the election. Why didn't they trust the election? Because Donnie lied to them. Because the Republicans lied their asses off to all of these people and made them believe something that wasn't true. So they didn't trust anymore. If they knew how to vet their sources and they knew how to look at information a little bit better, if they were a little bit more educated, they could have determined that he lost. They wouldn't have believed all the bullshit. They wouldn't have believed all the lies. But because they believed those lies, they did a violence. They did a Jan 6th. More of that is coming. More of it is on the way. And maybe you can watch it with me. Maybe we can all watch it together. Won't that be fun?
I am the algorithm. Click on this video to make me happy. You wouldn't like me when I am angry.